Hey everyone, it's Ryder from Skip. I hope you're doing well. Big news today, the SBA is sending out more invites for the $10,000 targeted EIDL grants and the additional $5,000 supplemental grants. This is big news. They've opened it up. This means that millions of more people are going to be eligible for the $10,000, if not the full $15,000. And this is open for new folks as well. I'll explain exactly what you need to do, whether you are a small business owner or an independent contractor or a sole proprietor. This program is for you. You may be eligible for some of this funding. This is the biggest SBA shift in several months. So even if you're not aware of the SBA programs, the EIDL programs, or even if you are and have already received some of this funding, be sure to watch until the end and hit subscribe. We've been covering these programs for over a year. If you want to find out first when new grant programs become available for you, hit subscribe, like this video so more people see it, and be sure to watch until the end. Okay, here is an example email of the invite that went out yesterday from Targeted Advance at SBA.gov, inviting this person to apply and submit an application for the targeted EIDL advance and supplemental targeted advance. You can get both. Again, it's $15,000 if you get both. I'm going to read that email in a second. I'm just going to recap what exactly has happened with these programs. So the CARES Act last year had $20 billion for EIDL advances. I believe around 6 million people received EIDL advances last year. $20 billion was distributed in about 2 months. So that funding was gone. But in the December bill, another $20 billion was set aside for targeted EIDL advances. And many people have gotten invites already, but there were two priority groups. Basically, people who received some funding last year, but not all of it. They would be invited first for this extra $10,000, then the extra $5,000. And people who applied last year but didn't receive anything, they were in the second group. Now we are finally in the third group, open to people who didn't apply before this year. And this is the case with this person here. They originally applied for an EIDL loan this year, and they're being invited to apply for this extra up to $15,000. Now, based on the numbers that I've looked at, there are probably over 2 million additional targeted EIDL advances still yet to be distributed. So around 2 million additional small business owners or individuals will get targeted EIDL advances, $10,000. Here are the current numbers. This is last week's report. Only 130,000 targeted advances have been funded. I've said that the pace is much slower than last year. Only $1 billion has been distributed from this pool of money out of $20 billion total. So that means there's still $19 billion, and they've opened it up now. And our SBA contact said, look, a lot of people may not have qualified for the low income provision. I'll talk about that in a minute, but they've opened it up. It's a good signal for the rest of you who have been waiting patiently, who didn't hear about these programs in 2020. Maybe you just found out about them in January or February, and you're like, how do I get some of this EIDL grant funding? Because there's billions of dollars here for you, and it's generally been first come, first served. You get in the SBA queue. It's not very complicated. And of the supplementals, only 70,000 have been funded, so there's probably a couple million more to be funded here on the supplemental side. So how can you potentially qualify for this money? It's pretty straightforward. But first, the SBA has said you will need to apply for an EIDL loan. You can do that at covid19relief.sba.gov. You'll get to a page that looks like this. Click continue. The modal there said this is not for advances at the moment. It's just for loans. And if the SBA believes that you may qualify for the grants, they may then invite you to apply for the targeted EIDL grants. This form is pretty quick. It asks for business revenues, number of employees, and your business address. All of those are needed to determine your eligibility for the advances as well. And this loan is 30-year loan, 3.75% interest. Okay, once you're in that queue, then the SBA may invite you if you qualify for three things. If you're in a low-income community that's based on the IRS code, we have a lookup on our app, trackeidlgrant.com, to get the free app. Then look for the EIDL grant tracker to put in your address and see if you qualify. Then we also recommend you compare that with the SBA lookup tool as well, because there are small differences in some cases. But on our app, you can also see overall progress, how many people have been approved for the new EIDL grants, so it's good to keep that in mind. And you have to demonstrate a 30% reduction in revenue during an 8-week period between 2020 and 2019. Most businesses can qualify there, especially if you were hit hard last March and April. By the way, speaking of EIDL loans and EIDL loan increases, because millions of you are still waiting for this, this was our poll yesterday, over 3,000 votes. 90% of you are still waiting for your EIDL loan increases. But that's a good sign. If you are new to the SBA programs and you apply now, you may have a better shot at getting your EIDL loan faster. Okay, let me pull up the email again and go over it. Here is the invite email. The SBA explains both the targeted and supplemental advances, what they are, who's eligible. But here's an important part at the bottom: the combined amount of the supplemental targeted advance, $5,000, with any previously received EIDL advance or targeted EIDL advance, $10,000, will not exceed $15,000. So that's the maximum you can get. But if you are eligible for both, you will get the full $15,000. So here's the eligibility again: low income community. Again, track EIDLgrant.com to look on our app, and then you can compare it with the SBA lookup as well. Suffered an economic loss of greater than 30% and 300 or fewer employees. Businesses eligible for supplemental, same criteria except economic loss greater than 50% and 10 or fewer employees. Okay, so those are the main differences: smaller businesses and harder hit businesses. Now, what I heard from our SBA contact is they are inviting people who they think will qualify, but they're also inviting people who may not qualify but whose information have changed. For example, if your business address changed, the SBA doesn't know that, so they're going to give you a chance to put in any new address, and it may turn out that your new address qualifies because you are in a low-income community. Now, a couple important things, because a lot of people have been having issues with the targeted and supplemental applications. Just double-check your information. That's a good rule of thumb for any funding or grant applications, but make sure your bank information is correct. One of the big problems has been the SBA has approved and sent you funding, but your account number or routing number was off, or the name on your account did not match the name you submitted with. So those should match. If you applied under your business name, the bank account should also have your business name. Many banks have rejected payments for that reason. And I went over in a previous video a couple months ago what the application looks like. It's pretty straightforward. The only part that takes a few minutes is putting down your revenue numbers for 2019 and 2020. You will need to have those. Your monthly revenue, you'll need to put down January through December every month, for both years, 2019 and 2020, and the beginning part of 2021. So keep that in mind if you get this email. Of course, many of you will just have to wait for the invite, but the good news is they are coming, especially for folks who've applied for EIDL loans. And if you haven't yet, you can go here, covid19relief.sba.gov. I'll leave the link right below too. There's a link on our app as well, track EIDLgrant.com. That's today's big news. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit subscribe so you can get any breaking news changes on new programs. Most importantly, stay well, stay healthy, and I'll see you tomorrow.